Right, the main tip I can give for bait at this time of year is if you can get away with fishing maggot, fish maggot. Carp and F1s both love maggots. I like to feed a mixture of mainly whites with a few reds, and then I'll always fish red on the hook. Roach and small silverfish can be an issue, but I always try and fish maggot if I can. The water's cold, it's clear. The good thing with maggot is you can feed more of it than you can other baits without risking overfeeding the fish. So you can push your peg a little bit more with maggots, not be frightened to feed. Fish small hooks, light line, light elastic, catch whatever you can. If it's a day when roach and nuisance fish are there and you do have to change, the obvious choice then is to switch over to pellet, feeding micro pellets and fishing a small expander on the hook. With pellet you need to be a little more careful with how much you feed, because you can overfeed your peg quite easily even with micro pellets, which is why maggot is the easier option if you can get away with it. So basically maggots and micro pellets is all you need for this time of year. It sounds an obvious thing to say, but fishing is all about enjoyment, and if you're not comfortable, you're not going to be enjoying it. Fishing this time of year, it's going to be wet, it's going to be windy, it's going to be cold. We're not going to be bagging like we are in summer, so you're going to be waiting for bites, and if you're not comfortable, you're not going to enjoy it. Good quality clothing is obvious, keeps you warm, keeps you dry. A good quality bump bar, the new panoramic pole support, everything like that just makes it so much easier. I've got 15 metres of pole out here and I'm not even struggling to hold it. If I'm waiting a bit longer for a bite than I would in the summer, it just makes everything easier, more enjoyable, more comfortable. Possibly the key thing at this time of year is fish location, and that's especially true when you're fishing the feeder or the bomb. Casting 6 foot away from where you have been fishing can suddenly find you in amongst the fish. The fish aren't going to come to you looking for bait at this time of year when it's so cold. You need to go to them. Fished a match on the peg next to this one a couple of weeks ago, fishing tight to the island. No indications, no liners, nothing. Dropped 1.5 meters short, and suddenly the tip started going round every cast. Had I not have done that, there was no liners or indications to tell me they were there. The fish are just not moving, but by dropping in amongst them I started catching. Similarly, peg opposite, I was casting back to the same area as I did from next door, not caught anything, just dropped short in the middle, maybe a 15 metre chuck. Too windy to fish the pole, but just by plonking a feeder 15 metres, I've caught 50 pound and won the match. Had I have carried on casting to the island that looks the obvious spot, I probably would have had 1 or 2 fish. So if you're not catching, have a search around. With the maggot feeder, you're not leaving masses of bait where you've had previous casts. Within a few minutes it's gone. So have a chuck around, see if you can find them rather than wait for them to come to you, which they probably won't. Obviously this time of year everybody talks about the need to fish fine and fish light. It obviously massively depends where you're fishing and what you're fishing for. Here where we are today, fishing mainly for F1s, sort of from 2 to 3 pound, but you do generally each batch hook a couple of 6 or 7 pound carp. But you've really got to treat those carp this time of year as a bonus. By fishing soft elastics with puller kits, with your light rigs, hopefully you'll get them in. If you get broken up, then you've just got to accept that you've had plenty more bites off F1s to make up for that loss. So you really do have to fish light. Probably here I'd start on a fairly fine wire, size 18. Probably start on 012 just to see if there's a big carp around, but pretty soon I'll drop down to the smaller 22 on 010. 010's been the line I've fished most of the winter really, and I've landed carp to double figures on it with a soft elastic and a puller. It shouldn't be a problem. But fishing fine and light with a nice light shotting pattern, so your bait falls slowly, light line, light floats, small hooks, floats dotted right down, will definitely get you extra bites. Something to consider at this time of year is the fact that the fish aren't really looking for feed and they're not going to come to you. You need to find the fish. That doesn't necessarily mean just casting around your peg. That could mean finding the furlough line, the layer of warmer water that they're happiest to sit and feed in, i.e. off the bottom. Dobbing bread off the bottom to islands and things on slate lakes is a well-known tactic, but in open water it can still work at this time of year. Your options really are either popping it up on a bowl or dobbing around on the pole off the bottom with a more compressed bit of bread. It's difficult to do because A, you've got to find the spot where the fish are, as well as then finding the depth where they are. But if you get both of those right, it can literally just be like shelling peas. You just put your rig in and it will go every time. It doesn't always work. It might rarely work, but on the day it does work, it is the method to be on. So this time of year I will always start on it just to see if there's that ball of fish, if I can find what depth they're at and where they are, because you can have a field day if you find it. Other options, you can come off the bottom a bit with your maggot rig. The fish might just be watching bait fall past them, but if you're fishing at that level where they are, you'll catch them. Corn is another visible bait that even with no feed the fish can see it and it stands out, so that can be fished off the bottom. A general rule this time of year, I would expect the fish to be in the bottom half of the water. It's rare they'll come right shallow like they do in summer. So if you fancy it, have a search around in the bottom half of the water around your peg. Probably bread's best, should work.
If you want to watch more Matrix videos, click here. If you want to subscribe to the Matrix channel, click here.